All right, raise your hand if you've ever been outside and you see like an amazing landscape scene. You're like, oh, I'm gonna paint that. That's gonna be great. So you take a picture, you get back into your studio, you look at your picture and you're like, it doesn't look that good. It looked a lot better in person. So you don't end up painting it. So in this video, I'm gonna go over what I do to make the painting better than the photo and to better represent how I felt when I was seeing the scene in person. All right, welcome to Paint Coach. My name is Chris Fornatero, and I'm here to help simplify oil painting so that you can get better faster. All right, before I jump in, I just want to give a plug to plein air painting. If I'm going to be honest, that is the best way to improve your landscape paintings. Even if you paint from photos, the more time you spend painting from life outdoors, you're going to get a better understanding of just how light works outside. You're going to be able to use that to enhance your studio work that you do from photos. Now, I know plein air painting is tough and it takes equipment and it's not the cheapest, but I promise you it is worth it in the long run. And I wanna ask everyone out there, to comment below if you would like to see more plein air painting videos. I've been toying with the idea of creating a series of videos over the course of the year where I travel to different parts of the country and hey, maybe even the world. I have to get a passport first. I've never been outside of the country, but to go around painting really cool places while still giving high quality instruction that can help you. So if that's content that you would like and you want me to look into adding to the channel, please let me know in the comments section below. All right, so for this painting, the first thing I want to do is make sure I have a good composition of big value shapes. If I can't figure out that, then I shouldn't go ahead with the painting because I'm just going to get into the thick of it and get really frustrated in trying to make things work because it's not built on an interesting composition. So a lot of times I will put the photo into black and white and kind of see how I would map out the big value shapes. And I'll try and think of it in just 3 values. Just giving yourself 3 values really makes you condense things and to simplify and to see the big shapes. You really have to get your landscape working on this level before you develop it further. Now you can do this with quick thumbnail sketches that shouldn't take long at all. You're gonna have to try a few compositions to figure out which is best. And this is a lot harder than it sounds, to force yourself to condense values because you're gonna say, oh, well, that's lighter than that and that's darker than that, this and that. And you really got to squint and you got to think and you got to make decisions. There's no one right way to do this. So what I ended up with was this big shape that comprised of the mountains and the sky. I kind of just said, okay, that's one value zone. And then I had these pine trees in the truck, which I want to be the darkest value. And the rest of this big L shape is going to be a middle value. And to have one more good horizontal, I think it'd be good to have a strong beam of light coming across the street. Now, when you're breaking it down like this doesn't mean that, the road is gonna be the exact same value as the tree or that there's not gonna be any light values in the tree. You can have variations of values within these big shapes, but you just wanna be careful not to push them too much that they knock them out of the value you designated it in this value composition map. For example, I want the mountain to be closer in value to the sky than say the tree. Again, this is really important and I wish I was taught this earlier because it would have saved me a lot of trouble and time and headaches trying to rework a painting, not understanding why it's not working, why it just doesn't look good. It's pretty cool. Like once you get down composition, you can do paintings that are so simple and you'll show them to people and they'll be like, wow, I really, really like that. And they don't really know why they like it, but the main reason they like it is that it's a pleasing composition to the eye and it makes their eye go around and stay inside the painting. There's so much to learn about composition and it's so valuable. I mean, you can make an entire YouTube channel talking about composition with painting, which is exactly what Ian Roberts has done. And it's great. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to go on like a little bit of a tangent here. I've made a previous video talking about Ian Roberts and how great his channel was. And honestly, I didn't even know who Ian Roberts was until the past year when I found his YouTube channel. But about a couple months ago, I came across an old box of art books and in it was his book. I had bought his book back in 2008, my freshman year at USC. And it's so cool because I remember that time in my life and trying to pull any kind of information that I could on how to paint the way I wanted to paint. I was taking painting classes at USC, but they weren't teaching painting. And I remember going to the bookstore and finding his book and just really liking what it was about. I didn't even know what I needed to learn, but I knew this was helpful and it's a great book. I'll put a link to where you can get it in the description below. I don't know, I just thought that was a pretty cool story. All right, so let's jump to the painting. Now, I really want to hold on to this value map that I figured out, so I'm actually going to utilize that in my underpainting. I do my underpainting with a little bit of burnt sienna and ultramarine blue to create kind of like a mid-value brown. I use a lot of paint thinner so it dries and sets up quickly, and I block out the value map composition to make sure I stay on track. So I decided to start with the mountains here, and my main concern with these mountains is making sure is that they really sit in the distance and add a sense of depth to the scene, because I actually remember when I was there and taking the photo, that was one of the things that caught my interest with this scene, the fact that we have this road, this tree in the foreground, and way in the distance, there's these mountains. And so I know that in order to make something look further away, I need to increase the cools. So I really try and push the blues and the purples in this mountain. And now I also want to make sure not to make them too dark in value, because remember, they have to be close in value to the sky. Not the same value as the sky, but closer to the sky than anything else. And then I actually do the exact opposite for these trees in the foreground. I want to bring them forward. So I increase the warm colors and make it a little bit darker. You know, these aren't things necessarily that I'm seeing in the photo, but things that I know will make the scene look better. Because the leaves in these trees are reading more kind of greenish yellow, and I figured pushing the oranges in it will, one, make it kind of more of an autumn feel, which is what I'm going for, and also that orange will contrast better with the blue of the mountain behind it, because orange and blue are complements. Now, if you don't understand complements or you struggle with color mixing, I'm not gonna get into this video, but you can check out the color mixing video, my Foundations of Oil Painting course, for free. I'll put a link to that in the description below. Now, also laying in this dark base for these trees is gonna allow me to add the lighter leaves on top and make them really pop. Remember, if you want something to read as really bright, it's only gonna be as bright as the darks are around it. Don't be deceived by the light values in trees. This is a very common mistake. You know, when I put this photo in the black and white, you can see even the light side of the leaves are still darker in value than the sky. Now, as I move to the grass in the street, I'm paying close attention to my values. Value's a little bit lighter than the trees, but it's still in shadow and still part of the big value shape family with the tree. I'm also giving myself permission to change things and to simplify things, mainly taking things out. Like, I'm not worrying about every patch of weeds or bush or whatever that I see. For example, I simplified this kind of mess of bushes on the right side of the road into two distinct bushes. And now that I have paint covering the whole canvas, you can see the overall effect working, or at least you should at this point. And now as I go in and add lighter values, I need to be careful of not knocking something out of the overall value shape that it should be in. One of the best pieces of advice I've ever gotten on landscape painting is that you don't have to put in everything that you see. You need to pick and choose what works best for the scene and what you are specifically trying to do with the scene. For example, there's a ton of little light beams going across the road here, but it's best to look at it and squint your eyes and try to group them into fewer, bigger light beams. All right, so let's recap everything that I talked about here. All right, number one, make sure your painting is gonna work on its base level by creating a value map of the big value shapes. Number two, when it comes to depth, always remember, push things back, increase your cools, move things forward, increase the warms. All right, the third, fourth, and fifth thing, simplify, simplify, simplify. Remember, you don't have to paint everything that you see. A lot of times the answer is taking things out. And the last thing is be careful when adding in more values into these big value shapes that you don't push them out of the original overall value that you assigned it in blocking in the composition. All right, hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, please hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. If you're just getting going oil painting, I can't recommend my Foundations of Oil Painting course enough. I've had over 1,000 people go through it. They love it. Link to that is in the description below. And if you would like to see what I'm painting on a daily basis, you can follow me on Instagram at Forza43. I'm Chris Fornatero here telling you to go get painting.